Okay, let's start. Welcome. In the previous class, we started data hiding or encapsulation in Python. All right.
Yeah.
Encapsulation literally means encapsulating data, covering data to protect it from manipulation from
Mhm.
others. Okay. If you go to Google and just type encapsulation.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum assalam rahmatullahi barakatuh.
Oh, recording was sorry.
No problem.
No
Uh,
problem.
I hope everything is going on fine. So encapsulation in Python in OOP. Let's check. You see,
Capsule বাইরে গেছে।
right? In capsule, we put very important medicine. Okay, and in encapsulation, we keep all data and properties, okay, and
Mhm.
protect it. Encapsulation, in capsule, we put medicine inside, right?
Yeah.
So in programming language, inside the capsule, inside the encapsulation, we put class, method, and variables. Variables means instances, the
Mhm.
properties, okay.
Mhm.
Properties are variables. Methods are method and function, and also class.
Mhm.
So you can protect everything encapsulating just using underscore in Python. Okay. In Java, we encapsulate like this. In Python, let me see. This is Java. This is also Java. So it is shown in Java. But in Python, we have seen how we can do it. I showed you in the previous class. Now,
Yeah.
today I'm going to show you more advanced data hiding and encapsulation, how we can protect our data. Okay,
Mhm.
so encapsulation, let me just delete it. I
Getter,
recorded,
setter, and getter, setter, and return.
yes. So setter is setting,
Setting.
okay, setting the
Setter,
data,
setter, getter. Okay.
setting the data to give protection,
Ah,
protection from other developers, other people, so
other
that
people.
people can't have
Outsiders.
access. Now, who usually does it? Usually the most senior developers, maybe your boss, okay, dev lead usually does it. Why? Because there are some sensitive data on web application. There might be some sensitive data that we don't want manipulated by anyone. Okay, so we have to protect the data by any means, and we can protect it just using this concept, and that is called encapsulation. Okay, this is called encapsulation. Okay, encapsulation means encapsulating,
Data.
protecting, how data hiding. We hide data. Okay, and we know how to access it. In the last class I showed you, but today I'm going to show you more advanced that I sent a video
Yeah.
in the last. Okay, class is keyword. Okay, and what is class? Class is a blueprint. Class is a blueprint. Class is a template. Okay, uh, an object is instances of class. Okay, it can be properties, it can be attributes, it can be variable, it can be methods. Okay, inside the class we have properties, we have instances, we have methods, and we have functions. Okay, so inside the class we have, say for example, it is class name is teacher. Okay, and teacher definitely will have some properties. Teacher might have some methods. Okay, uh, let's create a method, and in encapsulation we have two kind of uh, methods or functions. One is setter, another one is getter. In setter we set,
Get.
we define the properties. Okay, and in getter we set getter to get back, to access the property. How? Let's see. We say set name. Okay, so this is setter. Okay, set, where you see set, this is setter. Okay,
So we set the
yes, we call it setter. Setter method or function, whatever you say. This is method actually, but method and function are same in Python. What is function? Function is block of code that is created to perform specific task. Okay, setter method. We set. Now what is this? This is parenthesis. In every parenthesis in Python, if it is method or function, there will be
self.
instance self. The first parameter will be self. Now in every programming language we use this parenthesis to put parameters. Now parameters are arguments. In arguments there can be value or can be also variable. Now what is variable? Variables are nothing but container that can be varied, right? All right, now this is setter. I can set whatever I want. I set name and name it set name, and this is setter method. Okay, and I just say self dot name equal to name. All right. Now we set a name. Now we also need to get
Get that name.
the name,
Yeah.
the properties, the values. We have to access it. To
Depth.
access it, since it is encapsulation, we are encapsulating. You cannot access it the way
Not
we usually access.
access. Yeah.
So you have to also
Set up get
set a getter method
getter method.
to get the properties, to get the function,
Data.
to get the data. Okay. How?
Def.
Def and you have to
Get.
say get. Okay. Gets, and we set. Now we want to get
Get
what?
this.
Whatever data we set. Okay.
Set. Yeah.
Self, this is our properties. Okay. We want to get it. So to get it, we have to say return. We want to return data. Okay.
Data.
What data we want to return? There is self dot
Dot
name.
name.
We want to return the data, means we want to
Is that-
get the data. We
Yeah.
want to access the data. Okay. We want to print the data and check what is inside. Okay. Now the teacher may have also ID, say for example. Def, to get the ID, we have to first set. Always before you get, you have to set. Before you get profits, you have to invest, right?
Yeah.
So you have to first set. You have to first sow seeds, grow paddy, then you can cut paddy. So first you have to grow, you have to set. To set what? It can be ID, or it can be anything actually. ID, it can be age, it can be salary, okay? It can be department, it can be subject, okay?
Yeah.
And so on, so on, okay? So this is set. So there will be again self. First parameter always self in any function or method in
ID.
Python, remember, because in to test our codes, we have to learn Selenium, PyTest, okay, to do unit testing, and we have to use self too many times in Selenium, remember, okay, self, and we set ID, so it will be ID, okay, and this is what? This is getter method. In programming, we say just setter and getter, remember. So this is set. Now question is, what is encapsulation? Number one, how we can encapsulate or hide our data, protect our data. The question can be also, what is data protecting? How we can protect data? What is data hiding? What is encapsulation? Encapsulation is a concept in object-oriented programming where we can hide our data and protect it from manipulation, okay, by others, okay. Remember, very simple. Now what I can do, I just set ID. Now I can say self dot ID equal to ID. Okay, and now we set ID. So this is setter. Now whatever we set, we have to get. Okay, to get the data, we have to say get ID.
ID.
Okay, and how we can get ID?
Self.
So same way, you
Same
can
way.
say
So, comma
get,
ID.
then self, then ID. Okay, all right.
Return.
Actually, when we set, we need this, but when we set getter, we don't need this. Just self is enough. Okay. Now the same way, we don't need to say ID again in getter method. So this is getter. Remember, in setter we need to declare and define. This is variable because it can be varied actually, right? It can be varied. You can just type I, no matter, or you can say identity, no problem. Okay, but you have to remember what you are doing. You have to understand. Okay, now how I can access this data? Now I have to say self dot,
Oh,
sorry, not self,
return.
return what I want to return. I want to return self dot ID,
ID.
right? Okay, now we set and get, we already create setter and getter. Now what do we have to do
Create
to
an
access the,
object.
we have to return the object. Now how we can do it? To do it, first we have to create object, right?
Create object.
Create object, because without creating object we cannot access anything. Remember, to access method and properties we have to create object first. Okay, now we encapsulated this whole data. We encapsulated class, we encapsulated this function, we encapsulated properties, okay, and instances also. Self is instance of class. Remember, now how we create object? What is it? Teacher, right? Teacher. So I can say T1
Okay.
equal to teacher. Object has been created, right? Now how I will know object created? If you just type the object name T1, then press dot notation. If you can see all this, you understand object has been created, because using object you can access all these properties and methods, whatever we have, what we created and what we don't create. Even we can access all the methods and properties available in Python. Okay, now say for example T2, is there object T2? No. I press dot, nothing happens. Nothing happens because there is no T2. Now create T2 object. This object is creating from class instance. Remember, class instance from the blueprint. This is class. Okay.
Teacher is the class. Yeah.
Whenever we put teacher after the right side of this equal to sign, okay, equal operator, only then instance is created, object is created from class instance. Remember, so we call it instantiation. We call it instantiating object, means creating object actually. Instantiating object from class. Okay. So whenever we create object, this object is receiving all the method and functions, whatever we have inside the class, whatever properties and method. All right, you have to understand it. You have to understand it. Now, how you have access? See, T1, when you put dot notation, you remember we have set method function, we can access it, set id, set name, name id, get name, get id. We are accessing whatever we created inside the class. Where we created? Right here, inside the class. Inside the class we have all this. Okay, understand? This is the concept. You must understand it. If you don't understand, you cannot move forward. And I know it's easy, but really confusing at the same time. If you don't watch at least 2-3 times, and if you don't practice 5 times, you cannot have clear idea. It's easy, at the same time confusing.
Correct.
I wrote these codes at least 50 times. 50 times before I become master. Now, still I make mistake. Okay, still I make mistake. In the getter method, I put properties. Still I do it. Okay, then I again go back. Oh, in getter there will be no properties except self instance. Now remember self also variable at the same time. Who understand it is a variable? Who can tell it how it is variable? Professor Anisur Rahman. How it is variable? Self, I said self is an instance of class. It represents the class. It is special instance of the class. How it can be variable? How you can prove it? It is a variable. This is very confusing and very popular interview question. Okay, they will ask you, what is self in Python? You will say self is an instance of class. Instance. Okay, direct instance. Now name also instance. Name is property. Okay, this is also instance. This is property. How it can be direct instance of class? because it represents the class. It's not very simple instance, right? You can
Yeah.
see it's doing something, doing extra duty than other properties, right? Now, how you can prove it is a variable? Now, this is property. Which property? This property. Now, this name is not this name, right? In these three names, this name is this name, but this name is not this name. Very confusing, right?
Yeah.
Because how? You can put here just n instead of name, and you can say this is n. Still, it will run. Okay, it will run. So if it is run,
Then it
then
is variable.
it is variable.
Yeah.
Even you can put ruble here.
Hmm.
If you put here ruble, it will work. So it is variable, right?
Yeah.
So if still it works, it is variable. Now my question is, how you can prove self also variable? Now, instead of self, I just write ruble. Remember, ruble.
It should not work.
It should work
Should work.
because it is variable.
Ah.
I just put here now ruble. Okay, ruble. So all will be ruble now. Ruble. All self will become ruble. So it will be also ruble. Okay.
Yeah.
Any more self?
2. Guitar method. Yeah.
Okay. All done, right?
Hmm.
Okay. Now T1 dot. Still you can access, right? That means self is working. Okay. What do you think? আনিস ভাই তো চিন্তায় পড়ে গেছে গা। আমি হইলাম কম্পিউটারের টিচার, হ্যাঁ, আর বাবুল ভাই এটা কি দেখাইলো, রাইট? ওকে, নাও অনেকে একমত হবে না, কিন্তু আমি তো প্রুভ করে দিলাম। This is variable also, okay? Because we can access it now. কিভাবে আরো প্রমাণ করতে পারি? If we can execute it, okay? If we can execute it and everything goes fine, that means this is variable. Now I just say set name and I just say set ID, okay? And ID is 101 and name is Anisur Raymond, right? I set, okay? Then I want to get also. How I can get? I can say T1, okay, and get name, and T2 get ID. Okay, now I can print it, right? I can print it. Print and print.
T2 should be get ID.
Okay, T2 can also get name, and it can also get name,
Okay.
you know, and you can say T2 set name and T2 ID, and T1 should have ID also. Set ID. Okay, 101, and it should be 102. Name is, say for example, Rubel, LVZ, Gomes. Okay, now print T1 get ID. Sorry, this is not name, get ID. Okay, get name, get ID, get name, get ID. Remember. T2 get ID. All right, now just print it. Python encapsulation.py. কারো সন্দেহ আছে এটা রান করবে বা করবে না? রুবেল দিয়ে রান করতেছি আমরা সেলফের জায়গায়। সন্দেহ নাই এই জন্য we don't have any confusion because we can access them, right? যদি না হইতো আমরা অ্যাক্সেসই করতে পারতাম না। ক্লিয়ার? You see? Understand?
Yeah.
এখন সেটার গেটার ছাড়া আমি এটা অ্যাক্সেস করতে চাই। Let's see whether we can access it without setter and getter. We want to access directly. Directly আমরা কিভাবে অ্যাক্সেস করি? T1 and name of the function. Name of the function is which one you want to get. Say for example, I want to get the ID. So get ID, right? Run it. You see, you can access it. We cannot access it because it is encapsulated. Data is protected. Data is hidden. Clear? Clear? Rubel sir is eating.
No, 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 no.
No, 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 no. We know. No, you're not eating. You are starving. Okay. You are Ruja.
I'm not starving. I just tired.
Okay. I know. Okay. Who understand is it 100%? 100%? Okay. You have question or you understood 100%?
I understood 100%.
100%. Very good. Now, how many times did you practice? Now, কবি এখানে নীরব। সময় হয় নাই, তাইলে ভাই জীবনে জবে যাওয়া হইতো না। Okay, you have to practice. Practice. Now you have to practice at least 2 hours every single day. Okay? So, just I repeat it. Encapsulation is very important. Maybe you are not working in the project. You are not hiding data or protecting data because senior developer will do it. Okay? But to get a job, you have to understand the concept and you have to make the interviewer understand. Definitely, interviewer is going to ask you a question on encapsulation. Though you are not going to work in the project, still you have to understand it. You have to practice it. Clear? Very advanced level.
Very advanced level, I
Very
see.
advanced level. We are in advanced level of Python.
Yeah, I see.
Okay, and we are going to deal with polymorphism and abstraction in next classes, and end of object oriented programming. Okay, we may do a project on maybe a project on banking system, how banking system works, how you are just going and putting your card inside the bank ATM booth, and how ATM booth is calculating everything. So we can make a project on banking system using Python. Our banking booths are running on Python and Java. Okay, and totally on object-oriented programming. The softwares are built on object-oriented programming. Now remember, every software, every web application, whatever you are going to build, after 2-3 classes, we are going to build web application. We are going to build software. So be serious. First, you have to know variables very comfortably. You have to understand how variable works. And second, you have to know types of data. Okay, every types of data, how they work. Or we have to go back again and again. Oh, tuples, what is tuples? Let's go back. We cannot do it. And what is dictionary? Okay, let's go back. We cannot do it again and again. Okay, then we have to know data control flow, if else elif, and we have to know for loop, the looping system. Okay, we have to know also true and false. What is it? True, false, Boolean. Okay, and finally you have to know object oriented programming.